Hey Oz,
Hey, Curtis.
what movie we watching this week?
We have got the love child of Monster Squad, House of Wax,
Okay.
The Princess Bride,
Hmm.
and Anchorman. To close out Man Bat Month, we are watching a non-vampire specific movie. We're going to watch 1980 something, 88, I think.
Yes, 88.
1988's Waxwork. Can you guess where Princess Bride came in?
I'm thinking.
It's been a week for you.
I know, right? There's no six-fingered man.
No.
There's no person running down the hill or rolling down a hill.
There's no Andre the Giant.
No, there's no Andre the Giant. There's no Wallace Shawn.
No. It's because
no Columbo.
It's because of like the sword fighting scene there at the end between.
Yeah. With the little skinny swords, the little fencing swords.
Between the Marquis de Sade and Billy
I
from
see
Gremlins.
it completely now. Who picked up sword fighting really fast,
really quickly.
He's a quick
He's a
learner
rich
there.
kid. He's a rich kid. Rich kids know how to fence.
He just got done on the rowing team.
That's true. And then, of course, Anchorman was just because of the bonkers everybody battle royale at the end of the movie. So, welcome back to another week of Let's Talk About Flicks, the podcast where we take a monthly theme, one that we're wrapping up with this episode.
Yeah, we are.
And we bring movies and we just talk about them and have a lot of fun. I'm one of your hosts, Oz.
I am Curtis.
And before we get rolling too far, we do want to give a shout out to our Patreon subscribers, Don S. and Melissa L. Thank you once again for your patronage. We absolutely appreciate it. And
Ching
would
ching.
Love, exactly. And would love if you told your friends and then they started, dipping into their coffers to contribute to ours. So, kidding, of course. We do appreciate.
I'm thinking
what you guys
Mr.
do.
Krabs. I like money.
Exactly, that's what it is.
I like money.
But no, we do appreciate our Patreon subscribers. So thank you, Don S. and Melissa L. for another month of patronage. So, first and foremost, this ends season 1 for us.
It is. This is episode 52.
52.
This is the grand finale of
That's
season
right.
1. We
That's
poured
right.
double the budget into this episode.
Oh,
folks.
yes, we did. We finally cashed in all that Patreon money, and
We did.
and talked about Waxwork.
Yep.
So I'm curious what you have to think, because I know what Patreon subscriber Melissa L had to think. Hers was kind of meh. As I talked about last week, it's very nostalgic for me. It's not one of those I remember the first time I saw it. It is one of those I remember the VHS box at the video store. I think it was just a pleasant surprise of a movie. Like, it was just fun. It wasn't scary.
It's a fun movie.
Fun.
I don't know if I'd call it a great film.
Oh, no. No.
But it's a
not
fun
at all.
movie, yeah.
Right. And that's really, it's just one of those, you watch it and it's just enjoyable. Like, there's so many, it's almost like a 7-layer salad. It's like, individually, none of those layers overly appealing. Like, a spoonful of sour cream or a bunch of peas. But you mash it all together and it's fine. It's a fine side dish. So this is not an awful way to spend an hour and a half. It's just fun. It's not scary, but it's a nice directorial debut for Anthony Hickox. So, but yeah, so we're going to talk about Waxwork this week to round out vampires that turn into bats on film.
Yes. And again, for our viewers, even though we know you've been listening every week for the last last 52 weeks. Our Man Bat Month is on the heels of Batman Month,
right,
where we reviewed several Batman movies and then flipped the script for this month.
Yeah, we went from a month of men dressing as bats to men turning into bats. So.
Yeah.
All right,
subtle differences.
Very subtle. I could easily understand if people got confused. Like, there's no vampire in Batman Begins.
Where's Adam West?
In Dracula, Dead Love. And so, would you care to share the cast of characters of this film?
Yes, the characters. I did not indicate any of the monsters in here. The 18 fine. Monsters that are in here.
Right. Most of which you really don't even see, but that's all right.
Yeah, you can argue there's really only 3 characters of consequence in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And those are Mark Loftmore, played by Gremlins' Zach Galligan.
Yes.
Sarah Brightman, played by Deborah Foreman.
80s, like, teen... I want to say teen heartthrob, because that usually is tied to, like, men. But it's like, Deborah Foreman existed in the 80s, and then that was it. Like,
yes. Said and done.
They put her back in her box, and that was the end of Deborah Foreman.
And then we have David Lincoln, played by the always understated David Warner.
I love David Warner.
We got some others as well. We have China Webster, played by Michelle Johnson. And then we had some other characters in the gang who were not even given last names. So right. I'm not even going to mention the real actors here. We have Gemma, James, Tony, and then the jock himself, Jonathan.
Yeah, we can talk about Tony because we're both Twin Peaks fans.
Yeah, Dana Ashbrook. We can mention him, I guess.
Yeah. But yeah, the others are thanks for coming, guys.
Yeah.
Collect your paycheck on the way out.
Yeah, but the other characters didn't even get last names. All the others did. The leading ones did, but
right. Yeah, they for sure. And so yeah, that's about it.
That's the characters. Yeah, that's it.
There are a lot of characters in this movie, but like you said, the ones of consequence are the ones you named for sure. And so
let's get into the plot, Oz.
The plot of this movie is somehow straightforward and also all over the place.
Yes.
Our movie kicks off right away with like somebody who apparently was dressed in like a house dress. I've seen this movie enough times that I was paying attention to detail this time around.
Yeah.
And the person who we catch somebody being shoved headfirst into like a fireplace that's lit.
Yeah.
And then they show camera from behind, and whoever is shoving the person headfirst into the lit fireplace it's like wearing some sort of like, I don't know, like they woke up from a slumber on Christmas Eve or something. Like it's, but so we start with a murder. We start with we're going to burn your head, and then the person dies face first in the fire. Kind of a cool effect. It's just because everything's practical in this film, but virtually everything is practical in this film. Whenever they're going in and out of the waxwork, that's not practical, but everything else pretty much is. And so
I hope that if I ever die completely engulfed in flames, that I just like while I'm engulfed in flames, I just like run in a circle and wave my arms.
I hope you do as well.
Yeah.
I wish that for you.
Thank you.
You just
and that's why this friendship works.
Exactly. Dreams will come true. And so
if you believe it, kids.
we start with a murder, and then we see a bunch of smashing of displays. There's a bunch of little tchotchkes and knickknacks and memorial amulets and things like that just being stolen out of this gigantic house. And then we're not in that time frame anymore. We cut to
over and done with pretty quick.
Yeah, we cut to some just really silly poppy music. It's like I don't know. It's like music now you could probably download for free to add to your musical soundtrack.
Comes free with iMusic.
But yeah, we meet Mark as he's at home. He's a college student, and he's eating breakfast with his mother, and she tells him he better hurry up because he's going to be late for college. And he's mad at her because he can't have his coffee. And basically she is not wanting to realize her son is of college age, and he is just this nurtured little, just this man child that again, they've got servants, and he gets into it. Let's put it this way. Joe Dante brought out the best in Zach Galligan in Gremlins, and then this is what was left over.
Yeah, this is try hard right here.
Yeah, very much so. And so, but no, they get into it, and then he's off to class, and then we get a scene where we meet China and Sarah, and they're talking about their China's new boyfriend or new man toy or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was this on again, off again with Mark, and we meet Gemma and James and Tony, etc. But as China and Sarah are walking to college, holding their books in their hands,
as one does,
as they're sophomores in high school.
Yeah.
As they're walking to college, they pass, which apparently was just, I'm guessing, a gigantic abandoned field along this like neighborhood route, because now there's a mysterious waxwork, a wax museum there that they don't remember being there before. So apparently it was just a park,
just an empty property.
And now it's a waxwork. And we meet Lincoln, who just mysteriously pops up on the other side of the fencing.
Yeah, really spooky creative editing there.
Yeah, exactly.
The camera
goes
over to the characters, and it goes back, and there's David Warner.
Give him some credit. It's his directorial debut.
I'd be freaked out if David Warner randomly appeared in front of me as well.
I would, especially dressed the way he was dressed. He was like a Joker Willy Wonka knockoff. And so he tells the girls that you're invited to a private show at midnight tonight. We're not even open yet, but you have a private showing tonight. And then the girls go to college, and they all meet up, and they're all just so existential in their sorrow. Especially Mark, who's just a crybaby.
Did they ever say the name of the school?
No, just college.
They went to college university.
Yeah, exactly. University Community College. And so then we just fast forward to midnight, and they all show up. It was the six of them, is China and Sarah and Mark and Gemma and James and Tony. As they come through the picket fence, they're freaked out because they're college kids. They're afraid to go up to not even knock on the door. Before they even get too far, though, Gemma and James, like Gemma especially, is like, I don't like the feeling of this. I'm out. And James, of course, her boyfriend, he bails with her. So we're down to the four of them. And they knock on the door, and they're met by just a little person.
Is it the actor from Fantasy Island?
It is not. I mistakenly contributed that to him. It is not him. It is another. It's just another little person. Just actor.
Little person actor. Yeah.
Yep. And so he invites them in, and there's also this like lurch figure, this very tall, just gaunt. But we don't see Lincoln here. Lincoln is not shown up yet, and so they get a tour of the waxwork, and they realize that everything in the waxwork is like beyond the velvet rope is a staged scene from some sort of horrific time. And so first one we get is Tony comes up to the rope, and he wants a closer look. He comes up to the werewolf exhibit, and he just wants a closer look. So he takes down the velvet rope and steps across and steps into the scene. And this is really where I enjoy the movie for this, because it's like the straight narrative is goofy and fun, but I'll give the director a lot of credit that he did a good job with each of these like scenes,
like subgenres,
of really like making them unique to themselves, like even with just the music and the lens focus type, but also just the camera angles and I liked it. I thought he did a good job. So Tony is in a werewolf scene, and now he's a character there. Like mentally, he knows this is not right.
Yeah, he thinks that the others are playing a trick on him.
Right. I don't like that. I guess you think too much about it, it hurts your head, because it's like you just stepped in and like you were in a waxwork. Now you're in a cabin in the woods, like. And you're like, my friends. Like, what did you think they did?
My friends must have drugged me and dragged me into the woods. Oh, those guys. You silly gooses.
It's like, what did you think they did? Like, you were just fine, and now you're not.
And then so they took my clothes off and put different clothes on me.
Those guys.
With friends like these.
Again? So Tony's in a cabin where where Gimli's a werewolf.
Yeah, Gimli's there, or Sala from the Indiana Jones movies,
or Sala. So yeah, John Rhys Davies as a werewolf attacks him. A hunter and his son arrive. They try to kill the creature. It's kind of a cool effect. Like the John Rhys Davies werewolf just comes up to the son and like grabs him by the top of it, just tears him in half,
rips him literally in half,
like a hot dog bun. Just separates him right down the middle. It was just fun. It by no means did it look realistic at all, but it was just like it was fun.
Yeah.
And so they kill the John Rhys Davies werewolf. Of course, the son's dead, and as the camera pans to Tony, he's starting to wolf out. We get kind of this like Howling-esque, CG or not CGI, but like practical effects with some bladders under some latex and
bladders.
And so and they shoot Tony. So now Tony is dead and part of the exhibit.
Yeah, and like it cuts from Tony like dying on the floor to Mark walking up to this to the velvet rope, and there's Tony werewolf, who's unrecognizable as Tony. Yeah,
right. And it was that was kind of a cool transition because you're like in the cabin and they get the shot, and then like you said, then they just pan the camera to the right. And it was a cool transition.
It's like you're in the shot and then you're watching the shot from
right, boom, yeah. Boom, and so we've come a long way from 3 minutes prior where David Warner wasn't there and now is there to this cool.
It's all in the movie magic, folks.
It's just it was a cool transition to like we just watched him get shot and slump down along the wall in the woods in a cabin, and now he's back in the Waxwork, and so and then so Tony's out of the picture. He wasn't even in the movie long enough to deserve a last name. That's probably why. So we're back to China. China, she's got her eyes set on a vampire exhibit. To be more specific, a Count Dracula exhibit. Mm-hmm. I don't think they ever say his name's Dracula. This is the one. Yeah, but it's Dracula.
It's Dracula.
And so she steps across the rope, and she is now like in a Gothic castle. She's like dressed in a gown. It's nighttime. And again, she's very cognizant of this doesn't feel right.
This isn't right, but she still kind of goes along with it.
Yeah. And so she sits at the table, and you've got Count Dracula at the other end that, again, he's calling her a different name, or she's there with her fiance. And so they bring her some food, raw meat.
Yeah.
She goes, "Oh, I haven't had
on the menu."
Yeah, I haven't had steak tartare in a while. He's like,
yeah, sure.
Steak tartare.
Steak tartare.
Oh, well, enjoy your steak tartare.
Your steak tartare.
So poor Miles O'Keefe, I think it's his first time ever hearing that. He's never says two syllables that are the same. Tartare. Microphone was a long way away from the actors' mouths when these movies are shot. They had to really enunciate.
Steak tartare.
And so, she eats. Everyone else at the table eats. They slurp it down. She ends up like leaving the table, and she ends up downstairs. She finds I don't know a Turkish bath or public bathroom or
something down there,
whatever. Yeah. She's downstairs and she finds her supposed fiance, who's like, it's kind of another cool fact.
Yeah,
strapped to a table, but like his left leg is like skinned to the bone from the knee down.
Yeah, from like the knee to the ankle.
And he's not really in any pain. Oh,
my leg.
Oh dear, it is you. You must watch out. And oh yeah, she runs away because that's right. Like Dracula's son, comes to her room.
Steven.
Yeah, it's Steven.
Dracula's son, Kevin.
Steven Dracula. I think it's Steven the Impaler.
That's exactly where I was going to go next.
So Steven comes in and he fangs out. He basically, I want to suck your blood. And she runs away in slow motion. She ends up downstairs and finds her lover, who's old enough to be her father. Steven then comes in and she like they play this very long, drawn out like cat and mouse of we're each on each side of the table. We're just gonna like shuffle our feet back and forth. Before Steven finally like dives on the leg of the
I thought that was great. He tries to dive across the table. He lands directly on the guy's like half severed leg.
After like picking off a piece of like shin jerky. Like,
yeah, he just peels it off and eats it.
Yeah, it's like it was just a fun effect.
It was,
like,
it was, yeah.
It wasn't grisly, but it was like, okay, that's kind of cool.
Yeah.
We saw a rat chewing on it at one point. And then, so she takes like a chair leg and the knife and like, makes a cross and kills Steven. His face, they had extra bladders. So they put some bladders under his latex, and kill him. And then like the brides of
the three
Dracula
brides come in. Yep.
And she takes care of those as well. They kind of get into this big stabby match, shoves one of them against all these bottles of wine. And like, I don't know how that killed her because none of those wine bottles were made of wood, but
well, it's the cork.
Fair enough. Yeah. Nobody said it had to be a splintered wood. It just had to be some sort of wood.
It's a really soft wood right there.
Yes. And so she takes care of the brides of Frankenstein. Nope. The brides of Dracula. And wrong Universal monster. And then like her, one of the brides had turned the fiance. Well, she eventually leaves that and she succumbs to Dracula's, his
hypnotic temptation.
Yeah, his being. And so she allows herself to be turned. And now China is part of an exhibit.
I will say the guy who played Dracula, he was a good looking man.
Miles O'Keefe was an attractive dude. Like,
yeah, he was a good looking man.
Yeah, he reminded me a lot of like Castlevania Dracula.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah, and so I was like, good for you. So other than his inability to say steak tartare, he did okay.
Well, the actress who played China was also good looking, I would say. So
yeah, Michelle Johnson. She was
very good looking people.
Yeah, they're very attractive. She gave off like a big like Rizzo from Grease vibe to me. Mm-hmm. And so, but no, they both were very attractive people, and so now our really like two of our four main characters are wiped out in like the first 15 minutes of the movie. So Tony and Sarah leave. They run into whoever. They're like, oh, your friends, they've already left. And and so they leave the museum unscathed. Jonathan shows up later. Jonathan being the jock.
China's new jock boyfriend.
Yeah. A college jock in the quotations here.
So earlier in the film, while the gang who hangs out in the football stands in their free time.
Yeah, like in Grease. It's basically I should have thrown Grease into my movie Marriage, but
there was an amazingly awful sequence of Jonathan at football practice laying big licks on the other players.
What was the point of this montage? Because I was checking, he was number 11. He wasn't even in every every hit. But yeah, it was like conversation between
his presence was felt.
It was like conversation amongst the four college kids, and then cut to just like clotheslines on the football field. But it was goofy. We also saw some Jonathan gyrating going on. As they're gonna go, he wanted to go see a movie with China. But anyway, apparently China told him they're going to a Waxwork. Jonathan shows up late. Jonathan comes in, and now he's met by Lincoln. And Jonathan's really, really impressed with the Phantom of the Opera display. Mm-hmm. And David Lincoln is, would you like a closer look? And then shoves him in there. We don't see this act out, but we do see Jonathan is now dead and a part of that scene. And so there's something nefarious going on, obviously with the Waxwork, but there's a reason that is yet to be unveiled as to why all of these people are dead and becoming part. Mark does what a Loftmore would do. He goes to the police, and he goes to get a couple of police inspectors. Inspector Roberts goes
very angry man.
Very angry man. So Inspector Roberts, who apparently had other things to do besides police work, was very frustrated, but he does agree to go to the Waxwork with Mark, and Lincoln meets him at the door. And they do what they did in pretty much the exact same thing that they did in Fright Night. Of this is a big joke, Kids don't know because it's the 80s and police and authority figures don't take kids seriously.
Stupid kids,
even though they are college age adults, but whatever. And so they're in, they're out. They see the museum. Mark and Robert's leave, but Mark recognizes Lincoln from something. Something sticks in his mind.
Familiar.
But at the same time, something stuck in Robert and Inspector Roberts as well. We get this cut to of him sitting at his desk. Apparently in the Miami heat.
It's like the Michael Mann light coming through the blinds.
That's exactly what I thought too. Is it's like the you've got your blinds closed, but somehow the room is still completely lit by sunlight.
He goes and fires up his white Lamborghini.
And so Roberts he's really struggling because a lot of the faces in these exhibits reminded him a lot of missing people that have been gone missing in recent.
13 people gone missing.
13 people. And so Roberts decides, I better take a closer look at this. Something's just not right here. And so he goes back to the museum, and we do find out here inadvertently that apparently if somebody has been sacrificed in a display, you cannot re-enter that display because, again, I don't think that was stated, but Roberts crosses the line to investigate China.
And he doesn't get sucked in.
And he doesn't get sucked in. And so he digs at the wax because, again, obviously they're all human actors. They're just holding really, really still, almost as still as they possibly can, but there's still some movement and motion. But whatever. It's fine. And so, but he kind of digs at China's cheek and realizes that, there's muscle tissue under here. So, he gets perplexed by the mummy display. He's checking that out. And then he steps into that. And we get another cool little dynamic scene here.
Yeah.
Of this mummy comes to life. They're in this big, like sarcophagus tomb.
Like a big crypt.
Right. And so this mummy comes out and basically takes the lid off of the tomb and just starts tossing people into it. And then
there was like a servant that was there, or probably like a hired hand might be a better way to frame it. And the guy just drops to his hands and knees in terror, and this mummy just steps on the guy's head.
Oh yeah, just squashes his
skull.
Yeah. And so, despite what you may think, mummies do have good weight. You would think that they'd be decayed and weigh next to nothing, but nope, not this one. And so, Inspector Roberts is now succumbed to the waxwork. He is now, but you can't see him because he's literally inside this tomb.
Yeah.
And so they throw a woman in there, and then they throw him in there. His partner comes back into the museum. He sneaks in to check on Roberts because they both go back and Roberts doesn't come out. Just a goofy little scene here. Robert's partner sneaks in, and Junior, who is the Lurch character, just snaps his neck. And then Lincoln just rips into him because they needed one more.
I think one more. The Lurch character. Do you know the new NBA rookie Chet Holmgren?
Oh yeah. I can see it. 7 foot, but skinny as a rail. Yeah,
I'm pretty sure that was his ancestor playing.
Probably
playing Lurch.
Yeah, Jack David Walker is the name, but I'm pretty sure he's one of the Holmgren lineage.
Yes, it's definitely in there
on his mom's side.
Twice removed.
Right, yeah. And so, but it's just, he gets scolded for killing this guy, and he just whimpers, he's sobbing because he disappointed Lincoln. So Mark and Sarah, Mark takes Sarah to the attic where he's here's this old newspaper.
Yeah. Well, time to do some 80s research.
Yeah. We gotta wrap things back up here. Long story short, the person who was murdered at the beginning of the movie was Mark's grandfather, and the person who murdered him at the beginning of the movie was David Lincoln, who was the only suspect of the murder, but went missing.
Plot twist.
And it was like 40 years prior. So it's like, wow, that's whatever. And so again, like I said, Mark's a rich guy. There's servants. Or as his mom refers to them, thems. There's us and there's them, the servants. They're not worthy of anything.
Normally in 80s movies, like the yuppies are the ones that are the bad guys, but for some reason the yuppie is the good guy in this movie.
Well, but I'll say this. He's kind of an anti-yuppie. He lives that yuppie lifestyle, but he's friends with the servants. Like he's buddies with the butler and the
butler brought him his caffeine and nicotine at the beginning,
right? But he does drink with him. He's friends with everybody except like the cleaner that he like sticks with his 60-page Lithuanian.
That's right.
Like has her who can't speak English have her write his 60-page essay on Lithuanian dictatorship or something like that, and her writing was like dictators bad guy. Dictators are people yell loud. And he's like, oh, whatever.
You're not wrong.
And so, so Mark and Sarah, he's basically telling Sarah, look, something's going on here. Then they go see another guy, Sir Wilfrid, who was a friend of Mark's grandfather. He's wheelchair bound. They go meet Sir Wilfrid, and he's our informant. He's the plot driver. That Mark's grandfather collected these trinkets from the 18 most evil people who ever lived. And that Lincoln stole these trinkets and then sold his soul to the devil. And what he's trying to do is basically capture 18 souls in these exhibits, each which contains the trinket. And then that will bring all of these 18 most evil people who ever lived back to life.
Because the math here is 18 divided by 3 is 666.
Yeah, and that's the sign of the devil. They figured this out in record fashion. Yeah. What is 18 divided, 8 or like it's like 3 into 18? He goes, that's 666. I'm like, oh, okay.
Did you ever see that awful Jim Carrey movie, The Number 23?
I did not. I worked at a video store when it came out, and I did everything in my power to avoid it.
One of the worst movies I've ever seen. And I saw it in the theater with Patreon subscriber Melissa L. and and neither of us enjoyed it.
No.
Oh, it was terrible. It's one of those bits where like everything adds up or multiplies to or divides to the number 23.
Oh no. They're at a Bulls game, and then they go to an 80s Cubs game.
Jordan's in on it.
Oh no, he's number 23.
Not Sandberg too. Robin Ventura.
Oh no. Future NBA player LeBron James. Oh yeah. It's one of those. So,
yeah.
But the point here is we're going to bring the previous owners back to life through voodoo. Apparently,
yeah, why not? Because when I look at David Warner, I think voodoo is his magic of choice.
I do too. I do too. And so, but if we bring back all 18, then the voodoo end of the world will occur, where the dead shall rise and consume all things.
That doesn't sound good.
No. But if it happens, maybe they would consume our podcast as well. So,
Patreon subscriber Werewolf.
Listeners.
The moral of the story here is bring back the dead, and maybe they'll maybe they'll sign up for your Patreon.
There's only 18 of them. It's going to take them a while to take out the world. And so Sir Wilfrid gives them the advice, Mark and Sarah, go to the waxwork at night and light the thing on fire. Okay. That's what they plan on doing. Until Sarah, who has been mentioned several times, is a virgin.
Was Udo Kier there?
Yeah.
she a virgin.
She's a virgin.
Virgin.
It's virgin.
It's Vigo.
It's Vigo.
It's Vigo. It's virgin.
And so Sarah is lured in to the display of the Marquis de Sade. And so she's willing. She wants it. She wants that pain and suffering That's what she craves and desires. Meanwhile, Mark is pushed into a zombie display. Kind of fun, black and white. Everything's filmed at a Dutch angle, and they're in a cemetery and they're all coming after him or whatever. Mark gets to the gate, opens the gate, and as he tries to run through the gate, he finds the boundary of the waxwork.
Oh, he hits the barrier.
And that is when it proves to him this isn't real. And so if I don't believe, then it's good. And so
it's a good thing the conclusion he came to there was the correct one.
No kidding.
Otherwise,
especially when he's
he's surrounded by 50 zombies.
Exactly, a horde of brain-hungry zombies. So he jumps out of the waxwork. It gets a ridiculously comical, Mark's trying to run away from Junior, but the camera can't back up fast enough for them to actually run. So they just do this running in place gag, and it's dumb, but whatever. So Mark's figured it out, and realizes that Sarah is in an exhibit. I don't know how he knew she was in the Marquis de Sade exhibit.
Well, he noticed that she was kind of taken by the exhibit when they were there the first time.
Right.
And she was even looking at a Marquis de Sade book up in his attic.
That's true. Yeah, because he kept one. And so he makes his way into the Marquis de Sade display. And again, he's like the Marquis de Sade he's going to kill her. That's what the prince is expecting of him. Just whip her till she's dead.
No one has taken this much punishment before.
No, ever. So, crank it up to 11. And so
what's in going back to the Princess Bride?
I know. I was thinking that too.
What's the machine?
Yeah, the machine. Yeah,
not to 50.
I was thinking that too as I was making this reference, but I couldn't think of what it went to. But yeah,
I don't think they had the suction cups in this one like they did.
No, I don't think so. This is all whips. But Sarah's really into it. So when Mark rushes in and explains to her, they can't hurt you if you don't believe it. But Sarah really wants to believe it.
She kind of wants to be hurt.
Yeah, she does. So and Mark and Sarah kind of have this flirtatious thing going on. I hope Mark can step up and deliver, because I don't think he's gonna satisfy her for very long. And so he gets her out of there, and we're supposedly good, but because again we had 2 displays left. The zombie display and the Marquis de Sade display.
Yeah, but once they all have souls, then the earth will boil.
And as Mark and Sarah escape the waxwork, we meet Gemma and James again, who have been called back to the waxwork. And those 2 quickly fall at the demise of the last 2 exhibits.
It's seconds later.
Yeah. It was just straight murder time in those exhibits. So now that satisfies all 18.
Uh-oh.
And so, I guess James was trying to steal something from the zombie display, like a pair of glasses or something for his collection. And then, so that completes the ritual, and the 18 come to life.
That can't be good.
But not before Professor X and his group of armed men come in.
The get up in his wheelchair is amazing.
Because we saw him in a plain wheelchair earlier, so he put the armor on.
He literally has an armored wheelchair.
Yes.
It kind of reminded me both of in the Running Man.
Didn't
Dynamo have some vehicle?
Yes, Dynamo had something like that. Yeah,
as well as the episode of Married with Children where they're at the supermarket. Do you remember that one?
I don't remember that one.
They're long story short, they're at the supermarket, and Marcy and Jefferson are also there, and they can't. One of them was the millionth customer, and they win like a $10,000 shopping
spree.
This
is coming back to me. Yeah.
So they make him compete, and Al tricks out his shopping cart with razor blades on it, and like flames on the sides,
right? Like Mad Max Fury Road.
Basically, yeah.
Basically. Yeah. Sir Wilfred shows up with a group of armed, and I need to say, elderly men.
Yes, very old men. Two arms, man.
Swung by the bingo parlor to get the crew.
Someone bring me my ointment.
Right. Mark's butler, Jenkins, is in on this. They all arrive, and we get this giant battle of men.
Monsters versus old men.
Right.
The age-old battle of monsters versus elderly men.
And so, and we get both. Several waxwork creatures are killed, but we do get kind of a fun little, like, everybody. We get to see the ones we haven't seen. They're like, at one point somebody picks up the little guy that answered the door and like dumps him into like an Audrey 2 from Little Shop of Horrors.
Yeah.
Feed me. And it's like dumps him in that. We just get a lot of this just dumb, like, it's like a precursor to the end of Cabin in the Woods, only on a micro budget. Like, it's all these monsters all at once. And so, like, Jenkins gets killed. The former friends that are now part of the Waxwork, they come back as villains.
Yep.
Jenkins, tells him that, hey, that's, because he killed China. It's like, that's not your friend. Like, they're gone. So Mark's trying to escape. Well, the Marquis de Sade had told him, because he outsmarted him. I don't say he beat him, but he outsmarted him in the wax display. So now they're in the real world and he's out for him. So we get this like fencing duel in the wax pit room.
de Sade, who's this master swordsman, against Mark, who's never lifted it, who was gifted a sword by Wilfred.
Yeah. Mark, as Billy from Gremlins was more of an intimidating force than Mark Loftmore. So, the Marquis de Sade, like, he's got Mark on the ropes, and Sarah, like, buries an axe in his back.
Yeah.
So that's gone.
What happened to Dracula here, Oz? We
gotta satisfy.
To check our man-bat box.
Yeah. Dracula gets cornered, and then shifts into a bat. And he's gonna just kind of fly away. Well, one of the slayers grabs him and then holds a revolver to this tiny bat head, and then says, "Go ahead, make my day." And then blows off the bat's head. We get a Dirty Harry reference, and it's like 1.5 times speed. Like, it's said so quickly.
Yeah.
Almost like if we take too long to say it, we violate trademark and copyright. So just spit it out before the censors realize what was said. But yeah, so Dracula's killed by just a gunshot to the head.
To the face.
Blows his head off, and that's it for him. Our lovers are reunited. Lincoln, who is there, and he's taking shot. He's like basically on this catwalk with a machine gun.
Yeah, he is.
Kind of out of nowhere. Wilfred comes in, who shoots him. His fingers now frozen, a la Carl Edwards in Predator, after his arm gets blasted off. The gun just keeps firing.
I noticed that as well. The requisite 80s villain gets shot and the gun just fires off another dozen rounds.
My finger's frozen. It's, rigor mortis sets in quickly in the 80s. And so he falls into a vat of boiling wax. Sir Wilfred is then decapitated as a werewolf breaks through the door.
Just walks by him. It just rips his head off.
Right. It's like, whatever. This movie had room for 2 survivors, and it was Sarah and Mark, and everybody else is out. And so they leave the burning museum. There's one stray hand from the zombie exhibit that survives, and we cut to the credits. That's 1988's Waxwork.
And that's Waxwork, folks.
It's like a little bit everywhere.
Yeah. All right. Well, folks, at this point of the show, Oz and I each give our own unique rating to the film we've been yapping about, in this case, Waxwork. Oz, how would you rate this flick?
I'm going to give this 18 voodoo amulets.
There you go.
This tickled all the spots for me. It's gory but fun. It's not scary but horror. It's just, and on top of it all, it's just a cool idea. Like, and the 80s was ripe with that, because nobody was really they were remaking things, but there was so much creativity in 80s horror, and this is just another one of those that it was just fun to watch. It checked a lot of boxes, and it was just an enjoyable ride. So 18 voodoo amulets. How about you?
I went back to our review of The Omen from several months ago.
And with another David Warner.
Yes, and my rating for The Omen was 71 decapitated David Warners.
Okay.
So, in referencing that, my review for this movie, I'm going to go with 62 wax-covered David Warners.
Would you like a closer look? One final, I guess it was supposed to be a scare as he jumps out of the wax vat, and that's all he says, and then he
just slowly
succumbs to his injuries like the Joker did in Batman.
Yep, and turns into a crayon. Next up, folks, is Outside Insight, when Oz and I each share some unprofessional review we have looked up by scouring the interwebs, and which we make fun of that review and said reviewer. Oz, what is your Outside Insight for Waxwork?
This review comes from Band Revenger on Letterboxd.
Band Revenger. Must revenge the band.
And he says, I don't actually like this movie that much, but David Warner just died, and my man was such a pimp. Missed his calling at getting cast as a Batman villain, and then gives it a 5 out of 5.
Because David Warner's a pimp.
Yep. Because and I don't really like this movie that much, but I'm going to give it a perfect rating.
Yeah, because David Warner's a pimp.
Yep, and he missed his calling at getting cast as a Batman villain.
Who would David Warner? What villain would David Warner have in
Batman? I think David Warner would be if they brought back Vincent Price as Egghead. I could see David Warner playing Egghead.
Yes, definitely would be in the 60s serialized Batman.
Yeah. I don't see him playing anything. It's like at best, I guess you could give him yet another like Carmine Falcone role, but
come down here with your anger.
With your anger. Bang!
Your friends, your family. Bang! Tom Wilkinson.
Oh, love him. All right, what's your Outside Insight?
Mine comes from the Internet Movie Database. Mine is Oprival 3319. This was left.
One of my favorite reviewers.
Yes, yeah, I have that guy's page bookmarked. This was left in 2015. Just okay, but not a classic 80s cult teen film. Admittedly, I barely got through the latter half of this before temptation dared me to sit it out to the end. Darned it. Definitely not Galligan's, Johnson's, Foreman's, or even Warner's better work. But I blame that on the bad scripting, the horrible directing, the rather lazy production technique, and Lord knows I have long respected and admired David Warner's work. Gifted villain he is. Certainly one of the finer, solid English talents of our century. 4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
4 out of 10.
Oh, poor guy.
We both found David Warner fans.
I'm big David Warner.
Yeah.
There was one I almost went with. It was another 5-star review that said, "This is a cult film still looking for its cult." And I'm like, fair enough.
Yeah, it's pretty good.
It's like there's people like I really enjoy this movie. Is it my favorite? Absolutely not.
No.
Is it good? Probably not.
No.
But it's just fun.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's creative. It has a good time. Yeah.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Here's the point of the show you've been waiting for: the 3-2-1, in which Oz and I each share 3 goods, 2 bads, and 1 about the film in question. In this case, Waxwork. Oz, what are your 3 goods?
As I've mentioned before, I love the premise of this movie.
Yeah.
It's really almost kind of feels like an anthology of sorts. Like, you've got so many different, to where you've got this overarching storyline with the voodoo and whatever, but really it's about the diving into the different scenes of the Waxwork.
Yeah.
Which with the exception of maybe the vampire one, which was saved by the gore, like they all got out at the right time. None of those felt overly long. They were just there. The set value was there. It was fun, and I really like the premise of this one. My second one was the gore. I mentioned it before. It's not like crazy over the top, but it's very practical and just fun. Like little things like the fiance's leg being eaten from like you said, from like knee to ankle, and just nothing but bone and viscera, and and it's just fun stuff like that. The werewolf effects were fine, and it just was fun. You could tell that we're going to do our best. We're not Spielberg here, but we're going to have fun and do our best. And really, the pacing was pretty brisk.
Yeah,
I don't feel like there were any wasted scenes, considering there were a lot of scenes in this movie. And so, the plot kept going. There wasn't really any extra filler stuff. Everybody had a purpose. And especially when you needed 18 of the voodoo, like 18 souls, like it gave purpose for like the police inspector, like, because he then of course was one of the souls. So, it was fun. Anybody ancillary, it was still just kind of a fun little reason to be there. So that's my 3. What about you?
My 3, I'm going to start with the scene with the vampire Stephen Charles, the 3 brides. I thought that scene was really off the rails, but I thought just specifically it was hysterical. Again, with them like lunging over the Charles guy and landing on his leg, and just cut to his there was at least 3 or 4 times where they just cut back to his face, just going and
it was just fun. Like that guy reminded me of like Alan Thicke.
He did. He had a very Alan Thicke look to him. So if you ever wanted to see what Alan Thicke looked and sounded like if someone tore the flesh off of his calf
and then dove on it.
Yeah. So just a fun, goofy, just bonker sequence. My next one would be the skewering kind of the horror tropes in general. Mm-hmm. There was a couple of lines in particular in the movie that kind of led to them, it gave you an idea they were trying to wink at the audience at the same time. It's all rather morbid. It seems to be what the people want. And then David, after Jonathan stepped into the Phantom of the Opera, they'll make a movie about anything these days. It's like,
well, and there was that scene originally. You may have seen it in the trivia. That the Phantom of the Opera scene was originally supposed to be a Jason Voorhees exhibit, and which Jonathan, before he gets shoved in, he makes some reference to Jason, and then David Warner, David, the Lincoln character goes, they made a movie of the Jason murders, but they couldn't get the copyright for it, so they went away with it. I thought that was just kind of fun.
Yeah. So again, it's their 80s attempt at skewering horror and winking at Hollywood and all that. And then my last good is Wilfred's tricked out combat wheelchair.
I figured you'd like that. Tank.
Yeah. Yeah, complete with like flimsy cardboard, knives and sheaths and saws on it, and he comes literally rolling in there. And I mean, hey, I hope this doesn't come across as like ableist or anything, but just he was ready to fight, man, and he showed up.
Absolutely.
He showed up, and his
I had a sheet of aluminum that I needed to put to use, and here we go.
He just needed the dynamo light up effects, and there you go. All right, Oz, what are your 2 bads for Waxwork?
The dialogue of this movie was trash.
Oh god, it's terrible. It's so bad.
And but it's so bad that it's fun, because everybody is hamming it up, and it's so the dialogue is my first bad. And my second is just cops that are just irritated by police work.
Yeah. You're asking me to do my job?
And he's just angry, hey, especially when he's aware, hey, 2 of my friends have gone missing. There's been 13 people that have gone missing in the last 3 weeks. So maybe you should take this a little more seriously then. But no, he's
quit add more corpses to my list, kid.
Yeah, quit giving me bodies to look for. And so those are my 2 bads. It just kind of seemed kind of funny.
I'm on the list to retire next week, and you're just adding more work to my list. Yesterday you sent me a text of a picture. Where were we at? Like at Menards or something like that?
We were at Hobby Lobby.
Hobby Lobby. Okay.
I sent you a picture, knobs and hooks.
Yeah. And you framed it as what, Oz?
Yeah, I framed it as like a buddy cop movie.
Yeah,
and we were just going back and forth with of just knobs and hooks. It's the new police drama on TNT.
And I responded with starring Mark Paul Gosselaar and Breckin Meyer, not knowing that as Patreon subscriber Melissa L pointed out, you just directly referenced Franklin and Bash, right?
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. But...
Yeah. And I was thinking Rizzoli and Isles when I sent you Knobs and Hooks.
Knobs and Hooks. It's his last day on the force, and his partners are loose cannon. Watch Knobs and Hooks.
I think we finally come to terms with it was James Earl Jones as Knobs and the actress that played Hooks on Police Academy as Hooks. So. And there were 2 black security guards in an all-white department store.
Yeah.
No, it was like a Nabisco factory.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the Nabisco factory. Yeah. Oh, okay. So I think we're on my bads. Is that where we're at? Okay.
Yeah, we are.
My bads. First of all, you didn't mention this before, and I'm kind of glad you didn't for multiple reasons, but towards the beginning of the movie, Mark is going to his history class at college university.
Yeah.
And this history class, the professor...
Oh, the Nazi professor?
is quite literally a Nazi and is espousing Nazi rhetoric and giving Nazi salutes, because apparently that's funny when you inadvertently give a Nazi salute. So
in the 80s, it was hilarious.
So bad. Nothing about Nazis is funny. Hollywood, for the most part, I think has finally realized that.
Yeah,
but
finally.
Yes, there's nothing funny about the Holocaust. There's nothing funny about Nazis, about fascism. Yes, that was really awful and really bad.
Yeah. But even one of our favorites, Dead Alive, has a little Nazi joke in it.
Yeah.
Because, the embalmer is, like his sleeve gets torn and his swastika's displayed. And it's like, oh.
Yeah, I know. Even Dead Alive can make mistakes. My other bad, and you referenced it a little bit before, like Lincoln's death scene. Where he gets shot and then he does the chicken dance and then he fires off another 20 rounds from his gun because his finger has rigor mortis and then he pops out of the wax for the one last scare and it didn't work. I didn't think. Just fall into the wax and die. You could do that, can't you, David Warner? You're an esteemed British actor. Just fall into the wax. Have a dignified, noble movie death. But nope. Had to ham it up.
Had to do it.
All right, Oz, what's your one, huh?
My is why are there lockers lining the college hallways at their college?
I noticed that too.
When Mark came and like faked being sick to pull Sarah out of class and they're running down the hallway. It's just like clearly they filmed this at a high school, but it's just lined with lockers. So it's like I've only attended classes on campus at one university, but I don't remember lockers lining the hallways.
Every school that I visit has cubbies in addition to lockers.
Right. So that's my huh. What about you?
My huh kind of goes back to you referenced this briefly before, but Sarah was clearly enjoying her time with de Sade. So
a little bit.
Assuming like if the plot plays out after this, Mark and Sarah are the only survivors. Let's say that their budding romance becomes a thing. I don't know if Mark is capable of meeting Sarah's wants and needs.
No.
Because she I think it was pretty obvious that she was enjoying things there. And
yes,
Mark doesn't seem like the kind of guy who's going to, I don't know, indulge that. Or at least do it well.
No, especially not in a satisfactory manner.
Yeah.
He's pretty whiny. And I could see him complaining that he has to do it again. Like,
I already did it once.
You again?
Bring me some nicotine.
That's what my servants are for.
Yeah. Get in here. Oh, I forget. What was the one servant who died?
Jenkins.
Jenkins, right. If only Jenkins were still here.
Right. Oh, very well, sir. I've got it.
So, yeah, I don't think the future romance bodes well for Mark and Sarah.
I don't think so either. So,
hey, Oz, this was week 52, my friend.
Yeah,
we just capped the full year.
We've done a full year of this show, and we thank all of you that have stuck around to listen to it, and those of you that have just started. Some of you may be like, I'll wait for the first season to end before I pick it up because it's always you can always binge it.
Yeah, I mean the first season of Conan wasn't that great, and then it got really good. So
same with Simpsons.
Yep, first season. They're lucky to get renewed, but good thing they did.
Right. Yep. And so here we are. We're renewed.
Yep. Our producers and financiers have picked up the bill for another season.
And inadvertently, I just noticed this. Of course, next week we'll be kicking off November, a new month, which means a new theme.
Yes.
And the theme for next month is 80s Schwarzenegger movies.
80s action, Arnie.
Which is kind of funny because I'm looking at our topic list now, and we kicked off the show with 80s Carpenter movies. Ooh. So apparently we're just we might have to revisit November of next year to make it an 80s something.
80s something or other.
But yeah, we are looking at a month of 80s Schwarzenegger movies, and it is a 5-week month.
It is. So we get 5. There are lots of 80s Schwarzenegger movies.
There are. He was a busy gentleman that year. Or that decade, not that year. So what are we kicking off with? It's yours first.
We are going to kick off with one of the earlier movies in the 80s Schwarzenegger pantheon, Conan the Barbarian. Crumb.
And that's it. That's pretty much the script for Conan the Barbarian.
Crumb. And then James Earl Jones turns into a snake and roll credits.
Yep. Oh, it's a fun movie.
Oh yeah, super fun, super gory. Every time I watch Conan, I always forget how gory it is.
Well, especially because like Conan the Destroyer, which sounds like a gorier movie, is so like fantasy laden.
Yeah.
You've got like is it Will Chamberlain in that movie. Yep. And Grace Jones, so it's much more fantastic in terms of there's more mysticism but Conan the Barbarian is just straight. I have a sword and watch me hack things up.
Yep. Yeah.
And if you're gonna and they're really in that time of filmmaking, there was nobody that could play this role other than Arnold Schwarzenegger.
No. Fun movie, and we will have a great time with that next week.
We got a great, just a whole great month coming up.
Yeah, we do. This is going to be a fun month.
Yeah. I don't know. I may make a switch.
Oh, yeah?
I'm not sure yet, but we'll see.
Yeah, well, I mean, even what we have here is pretty good. But
it is.
But there's you could argue there's a couple missing as well. But
yes, I know. I guess I'm looking at it as we've got... Out of the 5 weeks, we've got 4 straight
action
muscle bound bangers, and then one that is still a great film, and it's like, do we throw it back to just 5 straight muscle bound bangers? We've got a few weeks to decide. We'll figure that
out.
But yeah, come back next week as we kick off season 2.
Season 2!
Episode 53.
On the road to 50,000.
With Conan the Barbarian. So you know where to find us on social media. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. You could be watching this on YouTube or listening to it on your favorite podcast app. There is a link to Patreon down below if you would like to subscribe to the show and help us out. If not, no problem. But
I like money.
I like money. Otherwise, though, it's been a blast. This first year's in the books. I'm expecting things to just continue on as there are a lot of movies to cover, and they just seem to keep making more.
They do. I think it's just to keep us in business.
Yeah, I don't think we'll catch up, but that's okay. And so for Let's Talk About Flicks, we'll see ya next week. I'm Oz.
I'm Curtis.
And make sure you come back for season 2.